the thing that scares me, that even scared me going into rares and then even into like the super rare market in any regard, is I have this kind of opinion, or I have this like viewpoint based on the people I spoke to and the way that the game seems so pay to win, that I can't break into the super rare market. People aren't going to sell me the players that I need for any kind of reasonable price, and even if they do, I'm fighting against managers with way larger galleries than me, to the point where I'd be lucky to win one reward per calendar month. Yeah. How would you advise, I suppose, then in that regard, if we're talking about managers taking this seriously and wanting to get involved in that level, what would be like the steps? Let's say you're in rare now. Let's say you've got competent rare teams. How do you make that step up?
So again, it's kind of what I was saying earlier. Is you kind of need to, unfortunately, fighting the battles today is always going to be harder and more expensive. But fighting the battles in 8 months from now, you can definitely get further ahead. Which is why like the Kostic and a few other super rares I've been picking up. Like if I do anything with them before the end of the season, which I do expect to, don't get me wrong, I totally chalk that up as bonus, because these guys for me are intended for the following season, and depending on international situations, maybe World Cups and whatever. So, for example, MLS is coming back for now, and that's a big kind of hoorah, and so is Asia and all the rest of it. I've got tons of super rares, especially in MLS, and they did okay for me last year, but it's really this year that a lot of them will be coming in, because there were young guys that were like maybe new to the league, they just transferred in, nobody really knew them, they weren't getting minutes, got them all pretty cheap. If you look at my MLS super rares, the average price of them all is under 0.4 of an Ethereum. In any point in the sorare market, that's always, in terms of Ethereum anyway, a decent price for any kind of level of super rare that you can later rely on.
Yeah.
So I wasn't buying guys in Seattle last year. I wasn't buying guys that were like, in the Revs like Carlos Hill and Hani Mukhtar at Nashville. I didn't get any of those guys. I was buying guys that I was watching and liking and seeing the scores weren't quite there, and then taking in the kind of real world factors of, well, these three guys have just moved to LA Galaxy from the French second division, the French second league. They are capable, but it's a big adjustment in lifestyle and football. The standards obviously different, if not higher. And the thing with MLS that, again, a lot of people overlook when people do get imported into the division is the travel and the variety of climate is incredible. It's so extreme,
Yeah.
So, especially European players that come over, like, it definitely does take a bit of time to bed into that.
So that would be my next question, just off the back of that. Sorry to cut you off there. Would be,
that's cool.
How do you manage to watch or track all of the players, or just in general, like where do you go to for injury news, for lineups, for just watching football, like as a normal person or someone like myself who doesn't have the most time in the world? What's the best route for me to be like, let me just go and find out about some American players or some like French second division players that might be getting transfers?
If you could hit the subscribe button, I do daily videos on Sorare, everything from hints, tips and tricks all the way through to live streams and tips on cheap players to buy. That will also automatically enter you into my March giveaway. I'm giving away a rare Davy Klaassen, who's a midfielder for Ajax, and 2 limited goalkeepers. If you want to stick around to the end of the video, we'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Yeah, so I think you kind of need to make your gallery the same size as what your time will allow. So my gallery is this size and this vibrant because I, over time I've put more and more time and energy into it. And so I see you've got my super rares on. Like I've got one there called Brian Gutierrez. I've seen him play twice, and that was enough. He's a wee 17-year-old, and then I've never seen him play again since. Didn't pay that much for him, I don't think. It's quite cheap, but I get, so that's not somebody I watch every week. I'm not tracking his news. I don't, but he's somebody that's like, okay, he's a wee young guy. I'll pick him up cheap, and maybe he comes good one day, maybe he doesn't. Or it might be a situation where, like, as I say, I will watch football anyway. I come into this already doing that, as we've kind of spoke about, having that kind of want to just kind of watch as much football as possible, basically. So I think a lot of people can come in and try, and let's say you buy 100 cards of any scarcity, and they're all over the place. You've got some in Asia, some in MLS, some in Europe. Keep it on top of that. If you don't watch like 5-6 games over a weekend, it's going to be hard. You'll get frustrated, you'll make mistakes on selections, you'll get angry, you'll then sell things at a loss, you'll then get, so you should only make your gallery as big as you can maintain, and you will need to go through some discovery on how much maintenance you can actually afford. And I think any costs that you experience at that time, you have to do chalk up to what we call, the mistakes everyone references when they start Sorare. Everyone does it, and one of them is, make sure you've got a gallery you can maintain, you can keep on top of.
Yeah, no, that is what's difficult. Like as I say, like I've changed my kind of strategy so many times in such a short space of time. I've bought and I've sold, and I've wanted to go for ETH threshold teams, but then for me personally, £20 or £40 a week isn't what I'm here for. I want to be winning rewards that are going to yield me like thousands of pounds of rewards per week. And like for you, like what's in it for you, for like that the guy that you referenced there, Gutierrez, like you've doubled your money on him effectively, ETH as well. I know it's easier to look at ETH than it is pounds, so you've doubled your ETH on him. Are you like happy with that? Would you be like, okay, let me sell him now, I've doubled my money, what an investment? Or is it like,
I don't even know that. It's just a buy and forget. And the thing with super rares in particular is because the scarcity is so small, and as you say, breaking in, if you wanted to just like bull in China shop and just show up, I'm at the party now, like it or lump it, it's expensive. Just as I've said a few times, sometimes you need to kind of fight the battle for tomorrow. So I just watched that guy and thought, you know what, he might be good. I liked his touches. I think he might have got an assist in the first time I seen him. That's what drew my attention to him. But he's one of these guys, and again, for the price you can get, this guy's total speculation. So I accept that, buying him, that I'm just going to put this guy to the side, and I'll start getting direct offers when I need to pay attention to him again.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about him.
That's fair enough.
Start hitting me up.
Yeah, I like you. Like you've see, you give me that. Like for me, I invested a lot of money, like into Sorare. I think I'm about £40,000 so far. I don't know what that is in ETH, because I bought a lot of ETH when it was real low, and also some when it was quite high. Cool. And I sit there and I think I kind of like, I have some mentality of let me like start snowballing the yield in returns. But now this is again where the more you learn, the more you know, everything changes. And I'm now looking at some of the super rares that you've picked up, like Joseph Martinez for 1.2 ETH. Is insane. Literally insane. He's so good, and in the MLS he's still so young, and it's like I now kind of want to come away from this and be like, let me go and look at next year's top tier cards that I can pick up this year for a premium, or for not the premium, and work on not only being able to sell them off if that's, if the shoe fits in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, but also yield rewards next season for them. But then my concern comes in, and this is where I don't know enough about the platform, and I haven't been around as long as you have, is what if sorare just changed something next week or next month or in 6 months, and I'm like, all of a sudden I'm sitting here being like, oh crap, like I've looked too far ahead, I've gone too much too soon, and it's come back to bite me in the arse.
So the first thing I would say, just to put Joseph Martinez to one side, is I bought him after he failed to recover from an injury, so that's again a bit of speculation, and people were scared to go near Joseph at that price at that time. I knew it, but he's still to come good this year, of course. But as you can see, even last year amongst all those greens, there's a wee dot of a DNP in amongst them all, so it was a wee bit sketchy. So you've got to take a leap of faith. Anyway, to answer your question, I think a lot of people forget and overlook the fact that what my motivations are and my concerns are for like my cards and my team are firmly aligned with all of Sorare's priorities, which is a good game that's here forever, that engages people, that connects people to clubs, and obviously the user base to this point is joined with a fantasy football element that has an Ethereum payout as well as card rewards. So the whole market is built upon that. Their invested interest is to keep the market and keep the user base happy with what they're familiar with and make it better. Any subtractions, retractions on any of that stuff does them harm. It subsequently does card values harm. It's so we're all in it together in that sense. So I don't believe they would do anything they would do. I believe it would be within the best interests of all, even if I might have some short-term pain, maybe like goalkeeper prices go down because of something, or so again, they made a change when they changed the reward pool. Everyone says, and you'll have heard this, Super Rare division, or what we used to call D2, it's the worst division, division for ROI, blah, blah, blah. See, since that's been the chat, that's the only division that I think about building a team for. And then again, to kind of go back to something else I meant to say to you earlier, is like, when that's my focus, right? Let's say I fail at building a successful champion Euro team. The result of me failing at that endeavour is I'm going to have, I currently have one unique, but let's say I have like one or two uniques. I'll then have a stable of super rares in Champion Euro. Now that might, the stable that I get might not be good enough to compete in super rare, but you know what? They're going to be very useful the level below potentially. They're going to be very useful in the market. So me kind of trying to go that one step ahead. I done it, but this time last year, I made the same kind of statement that I just made there. But I done it, and then I would follow up by saying, I expect to fail. I don't expect to be a D2 player, but I'm going to tell myself that's my goal, and I'm going to build the team in that fashion, and hoping that I just end up with a good pro team at the end of it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You got Dennis Suarez, the ex-Arsenal guy. He's again, like, I mean, he hasn't really hit the successful heights that pre-Arsenal when he was actually doing very, very well.
He's equivalent to your Brill super rare,
Yeah.
He's a unique. He can do something okay. He's somebody I know. I've watched a lot of Celta Vigo this year because I love Mendes. I've got his super rare, so I've been watching him. I'm up to speed with the team and all the rest of it. So a guy like that, I know when I buy it, similar to Ozil, I don't buy Dennis Suarez unique thinking he's going to win me something in D2 every week. But as you can see, when those green dots come along, those are the weeks I win.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's super rare. If I can get on the podium those 3 times a season, happy days.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And so somebody in the chat, I think, has just referenced Football Index. Now, I can see immediately the differences between Football Index and Sorare, and I think most people that spend 10 minutes on the site can as well. But talking about like the longevity of the site, like there has to be like all the rewards are given back based on the money that comes in, right? So although it's not any kind of pyramid scheme, how do they continue encouraging people to spend?
If you're talking about Sorare, Sorare is quite a tricky one, right? So, for example, this will be the 3rd season I've played Sorare MLS cards. And I still have a need and a want and a desire to buy new MLS cards because new players have transferred. Guys didn't get cards last season. Guys I had last year that I loved, I fell out of love with and I've sold, and then I maybe want to do something else. So active game players will always have some sort of movement in the market in terms of activity. And then new users are always discovering all the stuff when you open it, make this mistake, try this strategy, that worked, that didn't work, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to come back to talk on Football Index for like 2 seconds, like as you say, like Football Index, the unfortunate thing about that is all their revenue was from selling shares and then subsequently like paying out dividends on those shares. So when your revenue is tied intrinsically to the product itself, revenue goes, that goes. The difference with Sorare is that the actual cash rewards are not that sizable, number one. Number two, the situation they're in the moment with all the financing they've had and all the backing and whatever, for the foreseeable future, the actual cash rewards that are available are not that, taxing at the moment, really, to be honest. If you've got 800 million in the bank, paying out. And again, when people are constantly, they can sell one unique and pay for the whole rewards pool for the weekend,
Yeah.
It's not. And again, because it's not as reliant on knowing, but if I don't buy this one card, then their finance. That's not the way it works at present time. So
yeah. But go on. You go ahead.
I was going to say the worry people have is they think, right, no one buys cards as of tomorrow. That means they've now got no revenue because that is their only revenue at the moment, which is fine. But at that point, if everyone's going to get to the point where we're not buying cards, something's went really bad, already. Their revenue stream is no longer a concern. If we're at the point where we're not buying any more cards, then it is games of bogey, at that point, and that's for them, for us, for everything.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, our motivations and enjoyments are very much in line with theirs. Everyone wants the game to continue. Everyone wants the game to get better. And
that's where I think that was going to be my next point, is like, where can it go? Like, I would love to see like SO11. I would love to see more mini games. Yeah. I would love to see way more weekly mixes that certainly allow for kind of lower budget managers. And again, the prize pool can be whatever, but just giving that person that opportunity to be like, okay, I can put 20 or 30 quid or 50 quid in and actually have a chance. And then for me, obviously with the Ultimate Team background, one thing that would be humongous for Suarez would be just making nicer cards. It just looks horrible.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Especially when like I kind of got lost on me the look of the cards after the first 6 months I've been on the game, and it wasn't until like revisiting FIFA content and you see like the Team of the Year cards and all, you're like, oh wow, man, like these
Yeah.
things do look terrible. But especially the MLS ones because it's just the head. But
And it might be meaningless to them. They might be looking at these thinking, "No, who cares?" But people actually care. Like they crazy care. You know, like if the Arsenal cards, if like, and I said this to You'll Never Walk Alone before, like if they released Arsenal cards that had no SO5 utility at all, but just as purely visual assets, I would buy them.
so would that, but you would just pay a lot less for them.
Yeah, precisely, yeah. But I would want the one of all of the Arsenal guys, you know,
nice.
something along those sort of lines, and they can certainly do more with making it a game, because that's what it is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be a blockchain game, and I think that they need to. It's very easy for us to sit here and dictate what they need to do or what they should do or whatever. But I do think that if they want to attract the general public, having that daily, oh, I can do this every day, or I can do this every other day, you know, or the extra kind of, this midweek here, I just had no chance of rewards. I barely even looked on sorare over the last couple of days other than setting my lineups up. And that's me, someone with quite a large gallery, respectively, to a lot of other people. And it's like they need to give me more reason to be on the site.
Yeah, it's just card acquisition and setting the teams. That's all there is now. But and again, it kind of comes back to what we're talking about earlier on. We are on like the hardcore mode of the game, and I do think that all these things will come. Like it has to be in development because they do need to open up. I think they were quite resistant to it about a year ago. The free to play avenue in terms of enhancing the common experience. We've kind of said we'll never kind of really do that, and I do feel with the recent, the casual leagues constantly open, everyone wins in the common division. Commons are now dished out, all the time. I do feel that that's a real, they've kind of came off that hill and went, right, okay, we do need to accept that the free to play mode definitely has to exist and have a prominent place on the site. So I think expansion of that is only going to be a good thing. And I kind of agree with your angle on it when you were chatting with You'll Never Walk Alone about it. Like, I would play this game. If I think about me, if I found Sorare today with the income I had at the time, blah blah blah, the rest of it, I would be hammering commons, I'd be hammering limiteds, and I'd still have the same motivation. And I suppose you would say arrogance, that I think I can find players better than other people, and I can find bargains better than other people. That's the attitude I think a lot of Sorare players have, is we all believe in ourselves that I've found something here. You guys are all idiots. You just haven't seen this, but I've seen it. Check this out. I picked up this guy. He's my captain. And, we've all got a bit of that in us. And the free-to-play aspects and the limiteds especially, like that has to be where that's kind of nurtured for like the average Joe user that I would be if I joined the game now, and I would be totally up for that. And again, I don't think I would have a lot of people have this like, oh, it's too hard to break into the upper divisions and whatever. And fair enough, I'm an early adopter and I've got a lot of advantages for that, but like I've just picked up my first unique and I'm slowly but surely, like I'm trying to get there,
Yeah.
And people underestimate what can be done over a longer time and overestimate what can be done in a shorter time with some of these things.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Even the trading aspect, like people are like, oh, I can only put 10 quid in or 20 quid in, I've got no chance. And I think actually you could trade easily 10 quid, 20 quid up to £400 or £500 over a period of a month, build into a threshold team, and now you're rolling. Like it just takes that energy and effort. But one of the things that fascinates me the most, like going back to that Brawls, for example, I think he's an insane pickup, and obviously I respect you greatly. You've definitely got a great knowledge as to what's good and what's bad than me, and you kind of not be like super sold on him makes me think, I'm seeing something here that you like other people aren't seeing, which could be a good thing. And I think that ego in people is another thing that makes Sorare so good, is because it's like you see value where others may not. And I think that having that kind of like, I knew he'd be the guy, like just gives you that kind of like, like rub it in people's faces that you're winning rewards with these like discarded like rares or limiteds or anything. I think I really like that aspect of it.
See, before Sorare, do you know the closest I've had to that in recent times, and this ties again into something we were chatting about earlier, is I was in love João Cancelo's card on FIFA when he was at Inter Milan. He never ever got an inform or a special or anything. He was a 79 rated right back. He was tall and he had a lot of his key kind of stats and qualities he's got now. And I played him in a team full of informs and team of the year cards and whatever, but I had the rare Cancelo. I loved that guy. Went from Inter to Juve to Man City as well, no. And if sorare wasn't a thing and we were having this chat and we were just talking about football, I'd be like, I bought João Cancelo when he was at Inter Milan.
Yeah.
I knew he was the best, you know. But so again, it scratches that itch a bit better because I could have had a João Cancelo Inter Milan card.
Yeah.
And held it this whole time, you know. And that's sweet, man.
Yeah, that is nice. It gives you that. I think it just gives you that ability to like, yeah, if you see someone now like with that 17-year-old that you picked up, like, you know, in another, let's say 8 years, 10 years down the line, he's, you know, winning the Ballon d'Or. You're like, yeah, look at this. I've got his 17-year-old MLS card. That's what's up. But I think the biggest problem, and this probably is like based on like the audience I have, at least the vocal audience to a degree that I have, people just can't afford to think like that. They don't have the disposable income to think, let me just go and pick up this guy or that guy.
Yeah. So what I did when I started, because again, like when I started, you know, a lot of my kind of like sorare wealth, if you like, came from the rise in ETH over the last 2 years, and me winning and trading cards as the platform's grown. Just to state that in case anyone's not aware, right? So, but when I started, my net deposits over a 6-month period hadn't went over like £2,000-3,000. And what I used to do was, because I used to gamble and I used to spend money on FIFA packs, so I did have disposable income. But what I used to do is I would do small, frequent deposits when I could. Now, this wouldn't be economical today because of ramp fees and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what I suggest now to my viewers is like, you know, save your money up. You know, like really try and just, you know, you've targeted that, you know, Gabriel at Arsenal. He's X amount of money. Save it up, you know, then deposit it and buy him. Buying a team will take longer doing that, but see the team you end up with, it will be your team and it'll be a team that you've. It's not just, oh, this guy's cheap today, I need him for tomorrow, and then it's like, oh crap, I can't sell him now, I've just burned 80 quid, you know. That's way worse for me. I'd rather just get the guy I want. I'd rather just wait for him, you know.
Yeah, that's fair enough, and that has its own dangers though as well, doesn't it? If you pick up Gabriel whilst he's in form, and I've done it with like a couple of people, and again, like those mistakes that you make where you don't really know what you're doing. Like I picked up Alex Anderson, actually from quite an established manager there, the rare version of Alex Anderson, a couple months, maybe even 6 months ago now. Back in September, for like £480, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I bought him in his like best form after he just hit 100 points, a 50 points, and a 69 points, and it's like now he's worth considerably less. And there's that danger even with that kind of like getting your 5, being like, okay, these are the ones I want. By the time you're able to get there, you're like, okay, these aren't the ones I want anymore. Like, you know, they're a bit useless now. And I tried, like, I when I started making my sorare videos, especially with what went on with Foot Galaxy, I'm not sure if you're aware. I'm sure you've. I'm
up to speed from what you said to John on his podcast and stuff.
So I was very tentative to get involved in this anyway. And I started off by when I started videos, being like, okay, guys, it's not financial advice. Make sure you do your own research. But I think that kind of spiel is also not disingenuous, but it's a bit bullshit at the end of the day, because I think what I have been saying more recently, and what I think is more pertinent to say, is that these are incredibly volatile markets, whether it be sorare or ETH, and there is a high risk involved. But there is so much fun to be had with that risk. But it's still worth it for me. But if I lost everything that I put in today, like I would still look at this journey and think, do you know what? I've learned a lot. Like I've enjoyed my journey. Like I haven't won anything. Like it would suck. But or let's say I just cashed out today, because I'm up like, I don't know, about like 3 or 4 ETH or whatever. If I just cashed out today, I'd be like, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, like the gameplay, the fun part is what it's all about for me. Like, you know, the ROI and, you know, pulling money and all that, cards and all the rest of it is, you know, fantastic, and it's definitely a huge part of it. But that's only available because it is fun, you know, and it's engaging. You know, if it wasn't fun, people wouldn't spend money on it. It's like anything, you know, like, you know, when you go abroad, I don't know if anyone's ever been on a skiing trip, you know, but there's skiing trips and then there's skiing trips, you know, like, you know, there's 2 different things. I just to put it on record, I've never been on a skiing trip, but I do, from anecdotes and whatever, I do 100% know that is the case. Same with anything, you care to do. But again, it comes back to the original intention that you have for the card. Some of these cards I have purely for fun. Some of them I have because they're useful in SO5, and some of them is that kind of bragging rights thing. Like the page I love on Sorare period is like when you go into a manager's page and you look at their squads, and again, so like your Bruce, for example, for me is 100% of utility cards. You might fall in love with that guy because that does happen with cards. If they win you some stuff, you do get starry-eyed around them and you'll keep it forever or whatever. But he's 100% a utility card. But a guy like Brian Gutierrez, I don't buy him as a utility card. I buy him as a, let's just see what happens. It's just pure speculation.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know his price. I never check his price. It doesn't pop up on my radar. And I've had lots of, and again, like when you're kind of building your club and you're building your gallery, it's about kind of identifying those silos that the guy's actually going into. Why is it I'm picking this guy up? Is it because, like Tyler Adams, for example, I picked up a 1 of 100 of him, and that's 100% just because I'm like a fan of Red Bull and he's American and whatever. But if he ever plays in SO5, cool, but like it's not a SO5 purchase. Whereas, for example, when I buy like that Dennis Suarez unique, that is almost entirely an SO5 play, and it's just to catch those greens whenever they fly in and maybe win something amazing. So it's about understanding the silo they go into. So I say, like, if then it does backfire and it's like, well, these are my Arsenal cards, these were my fun cards anyway, I don't care. Like it's but when it's your SO5 cards or the ones that you've done for ROI purposes, it's a bit of a different situation if like they drop in price or they break their leg or something like that, because that was their purpose. Having
absolutely.
them now with a broken leg is pointless.
Actually, I got a little bit of luck buying the Arsenal cards because I bought Kolasinac and then he transferred, and then I bought Gabriel and Partey for the sole purpose of them being Arsenal cards, and they won me a reward. So it's like, very nice.
Gabriel was my first card.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the first card I bought. I love Gabriel. Got me 100. I think he scored against Man United a season ago or so. And he hit 100. It got me a big prize. I can't remember what it was. Might have been Wirtz or something. But so I love a bit of Gabriel Magalhaes.
Yeah, look at that. Oh wow, he's already had 200s, and he's certainly one of those players as well. When you look at his SO5 scores, okay, he has a few stinkers here and there, and against Wolves. I guess it's gone down as an own goal. I guess that's their error leading to goal that Sorare data quantify as. But he's very consistent.
He is top notch.
Yeah, and he's still got like another 2. Is this his last year of under 23 utility, or has he got one more?
If you scroll up on Sorare data, it should tell you. I don't think he's got long left. But
he's 24 already, so this will be his last year. But yeah, it's fun. It's real fun to pick up players. And it does, like, even with Football Manager, for Ultimate Team, EA released an Alex Lacazette SBC back in like 2016 or something before he was at Arsenal, and I loved it. And then he came to Arsenal. They released a special Footies Aubameyang card when he was at Dortmund, and I loved it, and I loved him. And then he came to Arsenal, and it's like getting that connection with players that I've got through, whether it be Football Manager. I think Patrick Kluivert, for example, is one of my favourite all-time players because he was just insane for me in Football Manager in a Barcelona save that I had. And it's like I'm now starting to find that as well with Sorare. I'm starting to get those players where I'm like, I just love you now. you're that guy that I need to like have on my wallpaper. Like something like that. You get those players, and like I look at the guys that I've got now. And I've started to hate Bayern because I bought Bayern stack and they've been absolutely shocking. And I've lost, about 20-30% on my investment on those guys. Same with Jonathan David.
Ignore that. Because again, like the price, and again, this is the thing with pricing, right? Because a lot of the buys I make are buy to keeps or not. I don't buy a lot of flips, to be honest. Whatever the price is on that day, like if I'm happy to pay it on that day, then that's the price I paid for it. Like, so all these little micro movements on price, like that Bayern stack is 100% an SO5 play, and them going down in price between when you bought them and today hasn't changed that. Hasn't changed the likelihood of ROI from them.
I don't know if you can see my screen right now though. You can see my yellow dot there when I bought Lewa.
Wow.
It was an impulse buy and a half. It really was. I can't remember why I bought that one. I must have misclicked and bought the wrong one, because that's a wild amount more, to be fair. It's almost like 30%
it happens,
more.
man.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. And I have got some good deals in there and stuff. But yeah, I have, and again, it's one of those strategies that's changed, and it's changed after watching videos of yourself and a few of the other guys. Is like I stopped buying players that I thought were good then and there, or that I thought might go up in price or whatever, and I started buying players that are more useful for me, more that are going to give me more value. And Jedson Fernandez is one of those guys. He's still very young.
Yep.
He's got good under 23 utility. He's back in Turkey, and when he was playing in Turkey, he was hitting 80 pluses, 50% of his games. And so when he goes to a better team at the end of the season, I see him as being one of those guys next year that is a integral part in my Challenger Europe setup. And so it was more of a buy for then, and it's one of the first times that I've bought for a hold rather than let me buy him, hope he gets a good sort of like 10 games under his belt and then sell him on afterwards.
Yeah, no, I love plays like that. I say it's always the best way to fight the battles on the leaderboard is try and get the guys for the next wave, if you like. Yeah. And in terms of like flipping and pricing, again, an angle I don't think enough people kind of explore when they're trying to do that is you need to imagine what the motivation is. Like, people need to be really motivated to buy these cards because none of them are there's cheaper ones, but none of them are cheap necessarily. So the motivation needs to be there, and like Jedson Fernandez, like you say, like U23 in Turkey, the amount of fixtures that you have every season that's a great one for me. I'm all about
that. Now you've given it a seal of approval. I'm gonna have to look at his super rare, I think.
but again, just to be clear, like I do like your brills, I do like the super rares you've picked up, but it's very much like what I would say is just make sure you're clear in your mind that these guys are like your base level guys, that you can then spring, one more helps you up a level. And
so tell me why then, I guess. And again, this might be like my naivety, but I think the super rares I bought give me very good utility long term. Like when I say long term, I mean like 3 seasons, 2 seasons.
If you can go to game week, I've just found this one at random, right? Game week 208.
How do I go to old game weeks?
Yep. So that team won me a tier 1 rare. I'll go and check when you find me there. Yeah. So in that team, the 2 super rares were Matarrita and Leggett. Okay. Now Matarrita plays for Cincinnati.
Yep.
Who last season were the worst team in the league. They got a wooden spoon. He brought in the 77 points before his multiplier because he's a super rare. It ended up being 98 points. Right.
Okay.
And in that game, I've just clicked into it. He didn't get any decisive. That was just all round play in a game that they managed. Oh, it was actually for Costa Rica. This is an international week. But anyway, point being, a rubbish super rare. And if you look at the price of Matarrita, it's about 0.1 for his super rare. And then Sebastian Leggett is the other super rare in that team. Before his multiplier, got 49 points. With his multiplier, that becomes 63. That team in total, with 2 decent rares of Depay, Robertson, and then the goalkeeper Oblak, finish on 418 points. And those super rares are cheaper than all the rares in that team.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and and that is a perfect example of like why I bought the guys that I bought.
Let's get into all the giveaway stuff before I let you go. I'm still doing monthly giveaways and I'm making it easier to enter. If you want to be entered to win this month's prize or any future giveaways here at the channel, all the same rules will always apply. Hit the subscribe button, you need to be a subscriber to enter, then leave a comment down below. Each month, a random comment from a random video will be selected as the winner, so the more videos you leave a comment on, the better the chance you've got of winning any of my giveaways. All the winners are announced at the end of videos the same way as we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. As always guys, if you've enjoyed the video today, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. On screen now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.